Hello, guys. Stand by for a quick intro. Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Canby, and this is episode 81 with the man from Saskatchewan, Canada, James Jeffers. Everybody, James Jeffers. James is the former Western Canada's Strongest Man and recently took second at Canada's Strongest Man this past summer, but now has his eyes set on the official Strongman Games, where he took 5th place in the Opens last year and is looking for a top podium spot to grant himself a trip to World's Strongest Man and Giants Live and more. So does he have what it takes to get to the top? How he's going to fare through the 7 grueling events of official Strongman Games? Let's find out on today's episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast with James Jeffers. The podcast is sponsored by Tsunami Bar Sports.com. And if you haven't already, go to oddobjects.co and get your Canby shirt today. And if you're interested in exclusive videos and supporting all things Canby Dude, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, here is James Jeffers of Saskatchewan or Saskatchewan. But yeah, here he is for today's episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast.
That's pretty good.
Hello, James. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you're of course, with all your great clips on YouTube, all the videos, it makes it really easy to make a good intro just because you guys have so much. You and Callan do so much great job in terms of putting a lot of great footage on there. So it made it pretty easy.
Yeah, she does a pretty good job, and I'm pretty fortunate that my wife Keelan can come to most of my competitions and capture some behind the scenes footage, and yeah, that looked pretty good.
But congratulations on being monetized on YouTube, and if you guys are not following James already, I have his YouTube handle in the description. But yeah, you guys have put out quite a bit of YouTube, and I think in terms of I would say that for competitions and training, I think you have some of the best quality footage out there because there's always great audio, great camera. I imagine that's a pretty expensive camera setup because it looks pretty professional.
Yeah, she does a pretty good job, and she's also a videographer, like professionally for weddings on the side. So she's got all the right stuff.
All right,
and I mean, I'm just lifting the weights anyway, so she can capture it and follow our journey from pretty much since we started, really. So I'm pretty grateful and thankful that she's able to come there and record it, edit it, and do all that stuff because I know I can't.
Well, it sounds like you're gonna have plenty of footage for a documentary one day when you start on Netflix.
Maybe I'll Born Strong Plus or something. I don't know.
So with you, so kind of staying on the YouTube topic. So of course, YouTube is an interesting beast because it's the way that I think a lot of people are able to get in touch with I would say with the audience and with, of course, a lot of the fans of the sport, and especially with YouTube, you get the long form. So it's a lot more times the more dedicated listeners or dedicated fans. But like, what you usually find like the biggest challenges when it comes to YouTube?
I guess just gaining traction was pretty hard. Like we're just under 1,000 subscribers right now, but we just did become monetized. That was a combination of having enough watch hours and then having just about that 1,000 subscribers. So it's kind of hard to catch that algorithm. We're not doing like clickbait stuff like this is eating 10,000 calories a day, and I'm not kind of into that stuff. We're just trying to be genuine and follow our training journey. So we're not all for that clickbait kind of stuff. So it's difficult to get traction, but once you get enough people subscribed and watching the content, and they kind of stay true to you and loyal, and we appreciate that. So it's been a grind, but steady progression, really. That's all we can ask for.
Absolutely. Now, do you think more strongmen should be on YouTube?
I think so. Yeah, it's entertaining for one, and then you can kind of also see into their training a little bit, whether that's strategic or not, or just out of curiosity. I mean, I personally have watched every single World's Strongest Man heat from every year, and almost every competition, Fortissimus, Arnold's, you name it, I've watched it. So whether I could do that from those YouTube videos or someone else's training, personally, I would like it if I seen more, for sure. It's a lot of work, though. I mean, it is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think of course you and Keelan are a great team, so I think it's only up from there. But the James train, I like it a lot. Is that I think that's a potential shirt idea going forward, or is it already a shirt?
It is actually the circuit that Jeff runs. We kind of all have our own individualized shirt, and kind of the proceeds help go towards us and in the circuit to help put on our shows and stuff like that. And so there is one, James the Train, and it's kind of a nickname that came up, I don't know, a year or two ago, just from a local guy in Saskatoon, and kind of just stuck with it. And yeah, once I build up a little bit of momentum, I am kind of hard to stop, but that's what I go with anyways. And then this past year at OSG, Wes bought me a train whistle, so that's kind of our little gag joke going on. So now we're going to bring it to all of our big shows and start blowing the train whistle.
So yeah, I have Wes's shirt from Circuit, but I didn't realize you had one too. So I'll have to grab it. Oh, there it is. The train whistle. Give it a blow. Oh wow, that's a good train whistle.
Yeah.
So going through, it was really easy to kind of figure out like what you've done this year, what you're training for, just because you do a good job logging on YouTube. I was rewatching your Canada's runs, man. I remember we posted back out and taking second, of course, at Canada's, great accomplishment, and also pulling 900 pounds. I imagine that was getting through that marker, of course, especially raw. Was probably pretty cool. But why did you have to you locked it out and then you had to you rehitch and locked it out again? Did the judge not like the first lockout?
I don't know. Like when I was pulling it, actually, as I was pulling it, I felt a little tear in my Terry's minor lat area, and it was kind of pulling, and I'm like, oh god, this is just stick with it. And I tend to hitch when it gets really heavy towards my 1 rep max, so I knew I was going to have to hitch it, and I hitched it, and I thought I was locked out enough. And Yannick, he's a pretty strict judge up here in Canada, and he judges North America's all the circuit shows out east, Canada Strongest Man, and he's been a head judge for many, many years. So we all know he's strict. And I thought I had it locked out, and he just wasn't giving me a down signal. So I thought maybe I didn't have it locked out enough. So I rehitched it. And after, he said he wanted to wait till the weight were motionless, but that wasn't in the rules meeting. So I was a little confused at the time why I didn't get the down command. So I'm happy he finally gave it to me, because that was a fight.
Yeah, but a great lift, and that was the biggest pull from that day.
No, actually, Fred went and pulled 925 after me, so I got second place in that event. And yeah, that's raw. So JF doesn't allow suits or briefs or figure eights in the circuit. So that was raw, which is it was a big PR for me. The pull before that, 870, was a raw PR. Then that was another PR. So yeah, pretty good day from CSM. So I'm happy with that event.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also what I had in the intro, I think it was a 425 stone to a 52-inch or 56-inch platform. The tiny little
56-inch
Fortissimus platform. It looked like
that's all JF runs for his competitions are 56-inch right across the board. It's not descending. It's all the same height. And I think CSM started at 310 maybe, and then ended at 425. So I was the only guy to finish that run this year. It took me 3 years to finish it, and in the past 4 years, only myself and Maxime have finished that run. So it's a very difficult set of stones, especially to those pedestals, because they're just on a wobbly base. So if you touch it, or you have to pretty much dunk the ball or the stone right in it, because if you touch it, it shoots off, or you're not going to load it, and you can't see it. So you just kind of hope you're high enough, and they're very, very difficult.
Wow, that's I was thinking, because probably too, it's a 22-inch diameter stone as well for that kind of size of the stones.
Yeah, so the last one was 22.
Pretty difficult. Yeah, I imagine it was pretty difficult. But so Canada's was your last competition, then you took a little break to ramp up for OSG, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. My last competition this year was my last one was CSM, and that was a week after Shaw Classic. I forget the date, like August 26th this year. So this year Canada's was only one day. Was it 6 events, I think, which is not normal, because normally it's either a 2-day show or a 3-day show. Sometimes 8 events, sometimes 10 events. The first time I did Canada's Strongest Man was 2022, I think. Yeah, and it was 3 days, 10 events. And then the day after, there was another competition a couple hours away, and JF asked if we wanted to do it, and some of us did. And yeah, we literally did 6 more events on day 4. So we did 16 events in 4 days, which is ludicrous, but we did it.
That's very JFO, but I think that's pretty typical.
And they're not light by any means.
No, not at all. And I think that's why you guys, I think potentially right now, actually this is of course looking at the Canadian scene is so strong. I think right now you probably potentially have 4 kind of guaranteed, maybe more guaranteed. I would say more or less pretty guaranteed guys at Worlds. If you include Mitch, Maxime, Hoth, and
Yes.
And Derwinski.
Yeah.
And then potentially you have yourself and Gabriel going at OSG, and also Frederick and some other great Canadians. So I think there could be a potential more Canadians at World's Strongest Man this year, like more than 4, which would be probably the most ever Canadian appearance at a Worlds.
Yeah, I think 4. I don't know, if you don't quote me on it, but I think 4 might be the most. Yeah, because last year there was Wes, Tristan, and Mitch, and before there's another year before. It was a long time ago, but there was 3 Canadians. But I don't know if there's ever been 4. So that'd be very hard to do, especially if the rumor is true where they're cutting the field down to 25 guys. It's going to be a little bit harder to get in. And it's too bad that Canada's Strongest Man isn't a direct buy into World's Strongest Man. But the talent is definitely there, for sure. Gabe winning it and myself coming second. It all depends how OSG goes. So, Canada definitely is growing and becoming more competitive on a world stage.
So before we get into the OSG stuff, so of course that's I think what a lot of our listeners are pretty interested about. Of course, I want to get into this weekend's show, which is the Magnus Classic. So of course another 3-day show, and you got a chance to compete it back in 2022. So how does this show kind of differ from many of the other shows you've competed in?
Well, again, it's 9. I think this year it's 9 events. I think it was either 9 or 10 when I did it as well, but in different spots in Iceland. So not only are you dealing with like natural stones that majority of the people have never touched, you're dealing with the elements. So whether it's snowy, icy, muddy, you name it, you got to compete regardless. And there's nowhere to hide. The Husafell, you're in the middle of a field. You get dressed, you get geared up in the hotel, and then it's a little couple-minute drive, but you're out in the field, so you got nowhere to warm up, nowhere to hide. So it's very, very grueling trying to deal with the elements. And being from Canada, it's kind of relatable, but we typically don't compete outside. Earlier this year I did in a competition in February, but it's different. It's gruesome. So I'm excited to see how the 3 Canadians do with more competitive people there this year. The lineup is stacked there this year. So I'm rooting for the Canadians, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult.
The 3 Canadians are Tyler, West, and Hoth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Now, who do you have on the podium for this year? When you talk about predictions for that type of show,
I'd say you'd have to have Mateus on the podium for sure. With there being 9 events, you can kind of get away with having a weakness, maybe one weakness, and with him maybe that being the deadlift. But he's so well rounded everywhere else. I'd have him on the podium for sure. Shane Flowers is coming back with a vengeance, and he's also podium there before. Right. So he's looking very good in his training. Rongo is another guy who has won it before. I know he's kind of coming off of an injury earlier this year as well, and then even Tristan. I know he might not have had the performance he wanted at Rogue, but he was still 5th at World's Strongest Man this year, and he won it last year. So he's got some experience that some of the other guys don't have, and he's got that grit, and he's damn strong. So I wouldn't rule out him, and even Wes. He was very good at World's Strongest Man, and he won the Magnus qualifier in Shippagan that I competed at in February, which was outside, which qualified him for Magnus. So that was an outdoor show. He won it. So and it was brutally cold there. So I wouldn't rule out Wes either. Those are kind of the top guys that I would say could be on the podium for sure. Any one of them.
All right, excellent. Any black horses in there?
Oof. Tyler could shake up the points on a few events. I'm really excited to see how he'll do on the Husafeld carry. He's really good at that event. But dark horse for the whole show. I mean, even Evans Nana, he's been up and coming on the shows, and he did well at his Giants live show. So again, with that kind of environment, with that weather, I'm not sure how he'll be able to. It's a little bit different than probably what he's used to, competing with SEL out in the sun. So I don't know, that could play a factor to it too.
You would say the same thing about Rongo being from Australia, but he seemed like he had no problem when he won.
He'll
right?
do it with no shirt on. Yeah, he's crazy.
I was surprised not to see Maxime in the lineup this year, but I think he's working towards off season. And the rumor has it that he might be around Boston this weekend, so I might see him for a day or two.
Oh, that'd be all right. Yeah, another guy, Magnus actually had like a Q&A today on their story, and I was the one who asked, like, why do you think Canadians do so well at the Magnus? Because we've had 2 winners be Canadian at that show, and a combination of JF running heavy shows and dealing with the weather ourselves. We're kind of used to that stuff.
Just and I feel like I think too was just kind of the unique events. I would say a lot of those type of events of just the natural stones you don't really see as much, especially in the amateur levels in the US. And then in Europe you usually have kind of faster pace, kind of lighter, more athletic event shows. So it's definitely kind of a good combination of things. But I think JF does a good job of keeping guys ready and prepared for all the different elements. But anything else on but like, for instance, when it comes to the MVM, did you have a good time, even though it was pretty cold, or like I hear it's kind of like a nice little party 3 days in a row?
It is. Yeah. You get to see different parts of the island. You get to see hot springs, like stuff you get to do after the competition is pretty cool too. Like we went to the Sky Lagoon after day, I don't know, 2 or 3, I can't remember. So we're all pretty banged up. And then just to go with literally all your competitors, turn the sport off, turn the game off, and just go relax, have fun, enjoy yourself, look at the beautiful country that you're in. There you get to try all the amazing food. Like the food there was amazing. And
what is a classic Icelandic meal?
Wow, I didn't try it, but fermented shark is I don't know if it's a delicacy there, but that's kind of a thing that people try and eat. I didn't do it. I had fish jerky. That was kind of different. I've never had fish jerky before. Just kind of like salty jerk or salty fish. That's pretty good. Lobster soup was good. Yeah, it was amazing food there. Yeah. And then just the hotel that we were at, the little hotel, it's like a nice, cozy little, kind of like a little resort that you get to do some of the events out in front of it. So it's pretty cool. And when we were there, we came a few days early. So myself and Colton Sloan, we went to the Fullstricker stones. So we gave those a shot a couple days before the competition, and that was pretty cool. That was very difficult. It was actually surprising how difficult it was. Not because it was heavy, but because it was about as smooth as a toilet bowl. It was the slickest stone I've ever picked up. So we went there, and then of course just the Husafell stone was pretty cool to see. And you're only going to get that going to that country.
No, that's pretty wild. But talking about all that food made me pretty hungry right now.
Yes.
But before we move on to OSG, we gotta do a quick Tsunami Bar ad. So 40 seconds of Tsunami. Are you ready to shake up your training? Are you ready for your next challenge? Tsunami Bar Sports is here to boost your power, stability, and coordination. Whether you're super loading and using it to target barbell-centric movements or using it for ballistic weighted plyometrics for more sport-specific purposes, the Tsunami Bar has you covered. Our patented and flexible barbell technology is designed to help you improve in all things human performance. Discover the difference at Tsunami Bar Sports today. Visit tsunamisports.com to learn more. Use CANBY10 for 10% off of any Tsunami Bar product, or pause the screen and use the QR code. Now back to the show. Have you got the privilege to use a Tsunami Bar yet?
No, I don't think I've ever seen one up here. Not at the gyms I've been to. I've seen like a bamboo bar, but not a Tsunami Bar. And from your training that I've seen you do with your squats and stuff, they seem pretty wild and something that, maybe I should start incorporating into my my training, especially my overhead stability. Right, that it's something to look at.
It's of course I'm a big fan of it, but of course you there's a lot of good strongmen and strong women in your gym, so I think it could be a pretty interesting look, something to consider. But what do you think? Should we talk about OSG?
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
So what's interesting? I was looking at the list. So it would be interesting because right now there's about like 50-ish competitors. Last year we had like over like 15 dropouts. So I imagine a few people will drop out, like won't show up. Like I think it's right now rumored that Reno is not coming because he just competed at the SEL final. He won Africa's and South Africa's strongest man the weekend after. So I think he's pretty busy, pretty banged up. So I don't think he's coming. But I think the main headline is that there's 4 former world's strongest man competitors joining, which is pretty amazing and going to make it spicier. I thought last year's lineup was pretty stacked, but now looking now, I think this is would you say this is the most stacked lineup ever?
Yeah, and like you said, we say that every year about almost every competition, but hands down, yeah, this year is more competitive and stacked than it was last year. Just even the numbers alone dictate that, but the talent for sure. 4 former world's strongest man competitors there, and just all the guys that are also doing very well at these other shows like the Arnold Amateur Shaw Classic. You got those 2 champions there. One of those world's competitor being Canada's strongest man right now, myself, second strongest man in Canada, Tim Buck, second strongest man in America, and like Bryce Johnson, he was 4th at North America strongest man. And then if Reno does come, like a phenomenal athlete, and some guys that I'm not too familiar with. There's a lot of guys on the list that I'm not going to go click through every single one of them to kind of see who they are, but I'm definitely not going to underestimate anyone. There's just so many people, so it is very, very competitive.
Let's take a look at the list. But before we take a look at the list, we always have to give thanks to the greatest of all times, Adrianus Savickas. So, Adrianus, thank you for everything you've done. So, looking at the lineup, so Colton being the first, is it the first sign up or the last sign up? I think Colton's the last.
He's the last, and there's one other guy that signed up just recently after him. I think he's from the U.S. as well. I can't remember, but yeah, he's a
okay. All right, so
he's good.
So I'm not even updated on my list. So just out of here. So of course we're talking about the 4 guys. So like Spencer being on there, Coco. You have Oscar Zilkowski, Roy from Arizona, or Orienta. He's very good. Of course, Seth Sokup is always up and coming and doing very well. Of course, we just had his brother Alec on the show. I don't know if you know Oleg from the Ukraine, but he's a little power nugget.
I've seen that.
Like he's probably like 5'9", but he has like a 900-pound deadlift, like a 462 log. Yeah. He does like a lot of behind the back presses. So I think he did like 500 pounds for like a I think he calls it like a power push but pretty much
Okay.
a kind of like a power push going from behind the back, which is really impressive. I know Jack Osborne is pretty good. How do you think Frederick will do? Is Frederick
Fred,
pretty well rounded, or is he mostly kind of like a deadlift?
Fred, like those are the twins. So Fred, he's a bigger deadlifter than Gabe. Gabe is a better presser. They both have kind of some similar strengths, but a couple different weaknesses. Gabe is really, really good at yoke. He's good at pressing. His deadlift is down a little bit, but with it being an axle bar and suits allowed, maybe he's not too familiar with suits because we're not really allowed to use them in the circuit that much. So we'll see how he goes there. But definitely have the world's strongest twins at this competition. So that's pretty cool to see. And I think Fred will actually push a lot of people on the deadlift that are maybe not too familiar with him, but he's a very good deadlifter. So we'll see what he bangs out for reps. It's going to be a lot.
Oh, excellent. One of my TikTok friends, Tyler Gustafson, he's a great presser. I've seen good things from Donald. Of course, he does a lot of dances, but he's a great deadlifter. He's a pretty big dude. Jack Osborne is a great presser. And then looking at the second lineup, is this the Yannick that was your judge, or is this a different Yannick?
No, that's a competitor. Yannick.
Okay,
He's different Yannick, but he's if I had to put money on someone winning the car yoke, it would be Yannick. He's been doing like 1,080 pounds in training in like pretty fast time. So I mean, but he's never done a car, so it is a little bit different. But you can't write off Spencer with that event because he's got won the experience on it and he's won that event before too. So I competed against Spencer at North Americans and didn't realize how like big he was and how thick he was, and he's been on podium every single year. So I mean, he has to be a favorite as well. So it's so stacked. Tyler Obringer, he's been at the finals, I think, both times he's done it. So Nick, I mean,
it's the only show he does every year. So
he's fresh.
It'll be interesting, kind of what package you. Oh yeah, super fresh. And then you have our buddy Joey Lavallee. How's Joe looking these days?
Joe unfortunately had a dropout from OSG. He kind of tweaked his back at Shaw, and it wasn't healing as good as he wanted it to do to be as competitive as he wants to be at OSG. So it's unfortunate because another guy that was in the finals this year, and he was making good progression this year. It's just he picked up an injury at Shaw, unfortunately.
Sure. So he's not getting his $300 back?
I don't know what's going to happen there. Well, for us, it's 400 Canadian.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, forgot about the exchange rate. And then it's a couple local guys, Sean Stellinger, Justin Legary from Connecticut, from up my way. And then the final list, Lucas is Brazil's strongest man. And then Joseph Payne, of course, man from North Carolina, Josh Spurgeon. Of course, we skipped over Nick Gardia on the last list, but he was my last week's guest.
Yep.
Of course, Wortham is very strong. And then the first one to sign up, James Jeffers. And of course, you're going to see what everybody is hit. But like, so I know log is when you're tougher events, but I imagine you're probably looking for a couple reps on the Trump log.
Yeah, that's right. That's the goal. Log's kind of been up and down a little bit this training block for OSG. And I'm not known to be a big presser by any means, but I'm looking to get 2-3 reps at Trump weight. With me being in the last heat, I get to see exactly what everyone else does. So it's not like it's going to change my strategy that much because I'm not going out there looking for 6-7 reps. I just got to go out there, make no mistake. It's a different log than I've ever used. I've never used one of those monster logs, but I do know that Bartos equipment is really nice and grippy. So as long as I don't make any mistakes, a couple reps should be there for sure. That's the goal anyways. So that's kind of why I signed up first, because I knew I was going to get to go in the last heat. Same for Shaw. I was the first to sign up, so I got to go last in every event for the first 3. Nice. So it is a good advantage. So with the Bartos log, of course, as we were talking about, if it's anything like his other Bartos logs, it's usually it's one solid piece. I think it's like 250 empty. So
I think it's going to feel the clean's going to feel a little different. So if you ever use like a heavy slater, I think it'll feel like kind of very similar. But of course, if you throw your say again, sorry.
I think the monster log, I think it's 280 empty.
Oh, 280. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so like last weekend, I was just at Tyler Sigerson's gym, and he has a Big Dog log. I think they're from the state somewhere. I'm not sure who makes them. They're called Big Dog. They're 245 empty. And
my buddy Johnny. Yeah, so my buddy Johnny Waz used to make those. So those were the logs from like the early 2010s. So he was he had a great line of stuff, but unfortunately, his manufacturer relationship didn't go well, so that's why they stopped making them.
Okay, so yeah, it was a different clean. Like as it was a little bit slower, but once you got past your chest, it just kind of like threw my head back. I wasn't expecting it, so I'm expecting the OSG log to kind of feel this to the same as that. So I'm glad I got a little.
I would say. But the Big Dog log is a little more sleek. It's a little more slippery. This one's gonna, like you were saying, it's powder coated, so it's kind of a nice little finish. But OSG events, what are you looking forward to the most?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to the final events. I know I got to get there first, and that's the first challenge really, but mainly because there's bag toss again and stones, and those are two events that I know I could do well. And last year I came up a little bit short on finishing both of those, so I know I'm capable of finishing it, and in a pretty good time. So those two, because I want redemption on them. I'm looking forward to the deadlift as well. Again, a non-event, I'm going there to win, but I've been making pretty good progression on my deadlift. I haven't pulled on an axle bar since like the Arnold Amateurs in 2022. Like it's been a long time. So I'm excited to see how much progression I've made on that. Wrecking ball hold, now that we kind of know the weights and the size of the handle and stuff like that, I kind of mimicked it in my gym the other day. And it feels a lot better than how I was doing it, because I was just using a barbell in a rack, and it was so uncomfortable. And I was like getting 30 seconds with 440. I'm like, man, this is going to be terrible. But I went up to like 550 and comfortable sets of 50 seconds, no problem. So that'll be good for me. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that'll be a good. It'll be interesting in terms of the setup. So hopefully, again, you're towards the back of the lineup so you can see what everybody else does, and then go from there, because it's much easier to do that event knowing the times you have to hit, especially to get decent points. Now, of course, we talked about a lot of the guys of like who you think is going to be in the finals. But do you have any kind of do you have any other predictions in terms of the other weight classes? I think I was taking a look yesterday or the other day. I don't think there's any Canadians in the 105s. Is that right? Is that right?
To be honest, I haven't been paying the closest attention. Last year was a little bit different because Isaac was there competing with me, and we're training partners, so it was a little easy to kind of relate to that a little bit because he was there competing. So I haven't been paying close attention to the 105s, but I think there's one, Darcy. Yeah, he's from Alberta, actually. Yeah, I know he's doing it. We've been talking back and forth. Okay. So there's one for sure. And then, yeah, I've been so busy this year and in work, I haven't been paying as close of attention as I probably should to the other weight classes. But, at the end of the day, I'm there selfishly for a goal for myself. So it's kind of hard. Of course, once you're there and you see everyone, and we're all pretty close once we're there, but it's kind of just been laser focused for myself.
I think one thing, just to talk about the show in general for the World's Strongest Woman, a lot of the top ladies that just compete in the Rogue are not coming. Like Inez, I think, is passing on it. So it's interesting that's the first time that's the World's Strongest Woman title is not the strongest woman. So will we see it evolve to something else next year? I hope we do, or potentially maybe some more prize money for the women's would maybe increase the prize money throughout all the weight classes. So maybe are they paying out the open men this year or no?
Yeah, I think they paid out the open men last year as well. They paid out podium.
Oh, did they? All right.
Yeah.
I thought
there was talk about like last year, I think combined for all podiums, prize money was like 60,000. The goal was this year to make it 100,000. I'm not sure if that came to fruition or not. We haven't heard anything. So, hopefully kind of with everything increasing in price, that maybe that reflects the prize money a little bit. At the end of the day, the open men were there for the Giants Live / maybe World's Strongest Man invite. So the payout is a little bit bonus on top, I guess. But yeah, hopefully maybe that does keep increasing or merit a invite to Rogue or something for the women. That'd be kind of cool to see if they could make that work.
Absolutely. But I think overall, I think it could be a great show. I think the 7 events are 7 all kind of different events. And I think testing a lot of different facets of strongman. So ideally, if I was competing, I would like to, if there's going to be 7 events, I would like to see a second press. But I do kind of like the change up in terms of the wrecking ball hold. But I think I'm going to enjoy more watching the wrecking ball hold than actually doing the wrecking ball hold. I think just based off of like other, I would say big heavyweight competitors talking about doing the wrecking ball hold and how much it can stink after a while and how draining it can be. So I don't really envy that too much. Of course, this year, so it's pretty good that I'm still recovering from my bicep. But anything else about OSG before we move on?
I'm just looking forward to try and improve on my placing. Really, that's been my goal all year for all my shows, and that has happened. So I mean, I only really need to get a couple spots better in order to get to the next level, and it's definitely doable. It's a little bit harder with this year's lineup, but I know the work I put in. I just got to get a little bit better. I'm not there to, necessarily win it, but just stand on top of the podium is the goal. So at least, last year I was 5th, and I was reached out by Colin to be a non-travel reserve for World's Strongest Man. So, I mean, even placing 5th did get me a little bit of attention. So I missed out just a little bit from Worlds this year, but, if I was, 3rd or maybe even 4th, maybe that's something that could happen. But the goal is just to get a little bit better, come in at 3rd, 2nd, 1st, whatever it may be. And try and join my friends at the next level. That's the goal that we're aiming for. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Darcy chimed in. Darcy said there's 4 Canadians in the 105s. So you got a few friends. Maybe there's some Eastern Canadians or Eastern side. So but again, some good some good representation. But of course, moving on from strongman, or for OSG, I should say, we're never moving on from strongman. Strongmans are alive. So it's funny. I was trying to think about it because you're pretty well rounded in most events. But what's your favorite event?
Atlas Stones is my favorite. I like natural stones as well, but we just typically don't see it that much. But Atlas Stones is my favorite. It's kind of been an event that I've kind of been good at right from the beginning. And then lately deadlift, more so max deadlift, just because I'm not really a fan of doing many reps. But my deadlift has kind of been a steady progression every single year. I've hit a PR every year. Last year after OSG, like the week after, I came home and pulled 905 in a suit for I think that was a 40 or 60 pound PR at the time. And if all goes to plan, I know I probably shouldn't, and Terry probably doesn't want me doing it, but if I'm healthy and feeling strong after OSG, I'm going to go for a big deadlift once I'm back from OSG. So those are my 2 favorite events. Or even farmers. Being a Canadian, we do have that stereotype of having good grip. And I mean, at OSG last year, me and Wes were 1 and 2 in that frame Denny carry. So I do like farmers too. Yeah, they're pretty good.
But yeah, I was saying you guys have some really great grips. I just wanted Joseph want to say a quick shout out. He just wants to say best of luck OSG again, James. I'll be rooting for you. Joseph being local to Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Stone wise, what's the biggest stone you ever loaded?
The biggest stone I've ever loaded was the heaviest stone we have at our gym is a 440. So the one day I was going for a heavy single, and I taped 20 pounds on, and then so I got 460. I'm like, okay, well that went pretty good. I think I loaded to 51 inches, and then I loaded 225s on there. So the heaviest stone I've loaded is technically a 490 pound stone. And then I went to Tristan's gym, like Tristan Hoth, a couple of weeks ago, and he's got a 502-pound stone that no one has loaded before. Thor tried to load it, but he just missed it. I think it's a very, very fresh stone, no tacky. And I lapped it like a few times, but I just ran out of steam to load it. So, the goal in the next year is to load a 500-pound stone. I have lifted a 606-pound stone like 4 inches off the ground, but it doesn't really mean anything if you can't load it. But it's a heavy stone to pick, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Now talking about stone loading, did you see Patty Haynes's stone load recently? He did 250 kilos or 550, and he's only I think he's lighter than me. I think he's only like 120 kilos or 130 kilos, so 260, 280 in body weight.
Yeah, that was, and he made it look so easy too. Like his load he had so much more there. So that's pretty crazy to see what he can do if there's a stone event. I'm kind of hoping that maybe next year at the Shaw Classic, there's kind of a manhood stone event for the Open. That would be kind of cool. They have the stones to do it. So maybe, fingers crossed, that'd be kind of a sweet event for us to try.
Well, let's not focus on the Open. Let's focus. You're going to do well at OSG, so you're going to get invited to all the big shows, and you'll be there on the pro show going for the strongest man on earth. But speaking of talking about a lot of shows, so what number of competitions is this for the year for you? OSG will be.
I think OSG will be either my 7th or 8th of this year. I started my competitive season back in February. Max and Sam had a Magnus qualifier out in their province, so he was outside in the winter, February. And then I did North Dakota Strongest Man, came down, earned some of that American money. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good. I've done that show a couple times now. I've won it twice now, so it's pretty close. It's only 2 hours away from me. So Mitch and Lacey have a really nice gym there. They have pretty much anything you need for strongman. So they run a good competition there. And then CSM, North America Strongest Man, Shaw, Western Canada Strongest Man, I guess is a qualifier for CSM and North Americans. And then now OSG. So only 7 or 8 this year. But the year before that, I did 9. The year before that, I think I did 8. So I think OSG is going to be I want to say like 38 or coming up to 40 of my total competition since I started in 2018.
Wow, pretty busy career now. I would say a lot of times, of course, the fastest way I think for someone to really build competency and become the strongman competitor that they want to be is to kind of compete often and kind of see every time you compete, you usually kind of figure out what you need to do better or what you do well. But of course, there's also the component of competing too much and not really being able to peak. But if you had to suggest to young strongman the frequency that they should compete, what would you tell them?
When I first started, I competed as much as I can because I was so new to the sport. I never did, my high school didn't have a gym. I did no strength training, no weight training at all. So I didn't even have a background in lifting weights or anything. So I gained experience by competing as much as I could. I kind of always said compete as much as you either can financially afford it because it is an expensive hobby or sport, and as much as your body will let you. Obviously, you don't want to train through injuries or compete while you're injured. But that experience is priceless. When I first started, my first provincials had a 250 log and I zeroed it because it was a weakness. I've never did any kind of pressing before that. So slowly just got better and better and stronger. And then now that I'm competing a little bit less, but that's because the loads are higher and higher. And it is taking a toll on my body. And even my coach has said, you gotta, and my wife has said, you gotta tone it back a little bit because you're just getting too banged up. And I know JF he doesn't push it on us, but he likes to see us compete. And we do compete pretty often. I mean, Old East, they compete every month or every second weekend, it seems like. So when you're first starting off, I recommend competing as much as you can, get that experience, because I'd rather make a mistake at a little local show rather than like a nationals or, a qualifier for a big show. Learn those have those mistakes when they're maybe not so important, and you can shake them off and learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so much, just little details that you learn from competing often. But like you said, it is an expensive hobby sport. So you gotta figure out, you gotta pick your battles. But I think early on, I think it's really easy to do a lot of local shows, and you can keep your body pretty fresh. Now after OSG, you talked a little bit about like going for a potential heavy deadlift, but what are your plans after OSG? Do you have any off-season goals, or what's your plan going forward?
After OSG, just let the body kind of heal up a little bit, or after OSG / maybe that deadlift, we'll let it heal up a little bit, and then just work on my weaknesses, and that being my overhead pressing in squatting. My deadlift's kind of in a good spot, so just depending what comes out of OSG, that'll kind of maybe dictate exactly what we do, but just keep putting in the work and just build up that basic strength, the tricep strength, the pressing, the shoulders. That's my biggest weakness. That's where I'm losing points the most. So it's what's costing me a lot of points. So that's the biggest focus really moving forward, because I haven't really had an off season to actually, do a solid power block, building blocks. It's just been compete, recover, and you're not really getting stronger that way. You're getting more experience, and I tend to do better in competitions than I do in training. But at the end of the day, I'm not really building that base strength that I need to be competitive at the next level.
Maybe Tsunami Bars in your future.
Well, maybe. I mean, anything that's going to help me, right? So there's something to look at.
What's funny though, but speaking of your coach Terry, when I started using the Tsunami Bar back in like 2016, and then like 2019 I got sponsored by them. But when I was first using it, everybody was against it, and Terry was one of the biggest naysayers, and he visited me twice in Boston and refused to use it. And I could try to push it on him. Like I loaded the weights, and I brought it to him, and he refused to even like touch it. So, but I think now he's come a long way. I think he suggested, but it's a little more. I think I probably have myself to thank for why it's a little more known in the strongman world. But it could be an interesting tool. It's definitely a competency builder. So if you struggle focusing on if you struggle on good technique patterns, then it's going to reinforce good technique. So right. It could be an interesting suggestion. Now we've been, I would think, pretty positive on the show so far. But for you, is there anything that grinds your gears in the world of strongman, Instagram lifting, or gym culture? What gets the man from Saskatchewan mad?
I guess there's a couple. One, I guess just seeing competitors that say in their posts, prepping for a competition, that they're coming for war, they're coming for it all, they're going to come take it all, and everyone look out, and then they don't make the finals, or they underperform, and it's like we're all there to do our best, and we're not Vikings, we're not there for war, we're there to compete. I don't know why that bothers me so much. It's just a play on words. Maybe we're not there for war, we're there to compete. And then one thing that's recently came up, and I train in my hometown local gym at a Snap Fitness for most of my lifts, and then I go to Metal in Regina for my strongman days. I don't know if it's a new thing or if it's just a Canadian thing, but all the high school kids come in with their socks on. They're just walking around the gym with dirty, stinky socks, and they're not wearing shoes. And it's number 7 on the gym rule board is you have to wear shoes. And I've asked them hey, aren't you worried about dropping a plate on your foot or something? So I don't know, maybe I got to drop a log on someone's foot or something, but it's have some common courtesy and just put on some shoes.
Are they doing shoeless deadlifts, or is it just all events or all exercises they're going barefoot?
All exercises, they're doing cable lat pull down seated with their barefoot on the pad, socks on the pads. Yeah, I get it if you're maybe deadlifting, or I used to do that too, but now I have I wear a barefoot shoe to do deadlifts. But yeah, they're just walking around their whole workout just in their socks. So, and it's just high school kids I've known, and I'm talking to other people that train at other gyms in town, and it's yeah, they're kind of doing the same thing. So I don't know if it's a new TikTok trend or what, but it's disgusting.
Kids these days, especially around vagina, huh?
Yeah, they're
Geez Louise.
bad.
But we are getting to I would say kind of later in the show. So if you guys have any questions for James, I will put him in now. Davo had a question earlier, so he's talking about the nickname. So he was wondering if that. I think you answered the question earlier, but he was asking, is the nickname from Thomas and Friends? So he's probably referring to Thomas the Train Engine. So
yeah. I came from a local guy up in South Warman. You know, he called me the Train, so we're rolling with it.
I like it. And then for the most part, so we talked a little about your YouTube. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you follow James on YouTube and check out his training, check out his competitions. He also does prediction videos. You did one for OSG that I watched a little bit of, and then I imagine you have a lot of coverage. But besides Instagram and YouTube, are you on any other social medias?
Instagram, yeah, YouTube. I do have a TikTok account. I think it's maybe just James Jeffers or Jeffers Strongman. I can't remember. I had like one TikTok have like 1.4 million views from me doing like a truck pull at a Magnus qualifier. And then a couple with like 30, 50,000 views on some like little grip lifts. And then ever since it's like 200 views, 300. So it's like so weird with the algorithm. And it's just, I don't stick with it as much as I do with the YouTube and stuff like that. But I got like 13,000 followers on that TikTok, I guess. But I'm just scrolling on it. I'm not really posting on it really much anymore.
Sure. I still try to post some items on TikTok, but I was in the same boat. I had probably 10 videos get over like a few million views, but then now I'm down to like a few hundred views every so often. So I'm not sure really kind of what happened. I'm gonna go over to Nicholas, one of the members. Thank you for being a member. So Nicholas will be rooting for you in a few weeks, James. Hope to see you and Guardione and Spurgeon on the podium and see you both at the World Strongest Man next year. Well deserved all around. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you for chiming in. Got to do the brain rot strategy to get views. So I think we got to be more skibbity toilet and have a little more riz and do all that. That's not us. We're millennials. We're not the Gen Zers. That's even Gen Alpha. My nieces and nephews are Gen Alpha, so I get the whole kid and put oh yeah. But of course, going into the next question, so just pretty much kind of wrap it up in terms of looking at everything. But when everything's all said and done, James, what are you looking to accomplish in the world of strongman?
Well, my end goal is to be able to say, I've been a World's Strongest Man competitor. When I first started, I thought it was kind of like a pipe dream. There was one guy in my hometown in Regina who was a competitor there, Scott Cummin. He was there a couple times back in the day. Scott. So I was like, okay, well, it's a potential, but I just never thought it was ever. I thought it was a pipe dream, right? But then you just keep putting in that work and being consistent, and anything is attainable if you want. So that is an end goal, to be a World's Strongest Man competitor. I want to be able to deadlift 1,000 pounds because there's not too many Canadians who have ever been able to do that. So I'd like to join that very, very small list of guys who can do that. And then, now with Strongest Man on Earth, like that's also a pretty big title and opportunity to be able to compete there as well. So it's very hard to get to those level, but I think I have the potential in me to do it. I just got to, stay healthy, injury free, and keep putting in the work. And I think it's definitely doable. So those are like my two biggest goals: is get to World's Strongest Man and or even Giants Live. Like it's going to be a stepping stone to Worlds. And deadlift 1,000 pounds, because if I can deadlift 1,000 pounds, who's to say I can't deadlift 1,100? I don't know, right? Where's the limit? We don't know.
Who are the 1,000-pound deadlifters for Canada besides like JF?
I'd say just JF and Mitch, really, I think, are the only guys who have pulled 1,000 pounds.
All right, so James the Train will be number 3. I like it. So Nicholas says, wish you hadn't mentioned the toilet thing. Could have gone my whole life without knowing what that was. Sorry, I'm just educating on the brain rot stuff. And then Davos chimes in. I think one tips to getting more engagement is to put thumbnails with your title on your TikToks. Yeah, I do see that around. I don't know if you chime into the Costco. Do you get the Costco guys around you?
No.
You know who the Costco guys are on TikTok? Like we bring the boom, but they're all I see is like thumbnails. So maybe that's what we got to start doing. So of course, I was mentioned before, follow James on all social media. Next week I have Emmons Nana, so maybe we can break down the Magnuson Classic. If you haven't already, get your Canby t-shirts. So I have two. I am sorry, I'm getting a lot of slack for we didn't do 4XLs this time around. So all the fatties, all the open men have been coming at me saying there's no 4XL. So next time, or we're gonna restock soon. So we'll have the 4XLs. And then to finish off, of course, I want to say thank you to all the members. And then the last piece. So what's one last piece of advice we want to leave the listeners, but you got to do the advice while riding a roller coaster. So what's one last piece of advice you might give the listeners?
Just go there and get the experience. Have fun. At the end of the day, you never know how long you're going to be in the sport. You could easily leave as fast as you come in. So enjoy the memories. Like that's some of the best parts about competing is getting to see all your friends that you may only see once or twice a year. So that's something that me and my wife really like to do. We go there, we get people in our videos as well. So then they have something to look back to as well, like just being in the background of someone else's video. So have fun, enjoy the sport because you never know how long you're going to be in it. So that's what I could leave people with is just have fun.
Great advice. I'll stop the roller coaster, but it was fun. I was looking at some of of course, the OSG video. Of course, I made an appearance, so I was very excited. But James, thank you for having on, and then for everybody, till next time, and for now, stay strong.
Thanks for having me, Nick.